This is the Ray Powers Hour. I am back, and on the line with me, calling from Ottawa, the capital of Ontario, for those of you who might not know. You all know that. In Canada, my special guest, Sabrina Fallah. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. You know, it's just about summertime here. It is hot this week. It is like
yeah, it's hot here too, surprisingly.
Yeah, well, I know you guys have a shorter summer than we do, but you do.
We have a very short summer, but we've been getting very hot weather, so at least we're getting the warmth that we sometimes don't really get. But that doesn't mean our winter won't come fast.
That's true.
We get our winters early. It's very rare that the snow doesn't come early. So
yeah, well,
by end of November, beginning of December, we have snow, definitely. So.
Yeah. Well, it used to be that way here too, and I think it's gradually shifting here in the States at least. But you know, I don't know. It just seems like December's a lot more mild than it used to be, and it hangs around longer now, all through March and like the first week of April. I know I've had some snow out dates in Chicago and places like that. So, you know, it's who knows? I used to complain all the time about the severe heat, but you don't have to shovel heat, so.
Exactly, and I don't want to complain that we have the heat, even though it's really hot, but I'm not complaining because we never get this heat, so I'm fine.
Yeah, you'll have a long, long winter to reflect on the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Sabrina, I did a little bit of research on you. I checked you out. I trolled you, and a fine line between research and trolling, right?
Yeah, that's funny.
But I checked out your back catalog, and I saw the maturation, the jump from album to album, or EP to EP, what has it may be. You got a start relatively young. I would say, 14 years old is when you realized this would be what this would be your thing. Yes, you're right. 14 is when I won my first singing competition. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to get off stage, and I want to keep doing this. I'm serious. I didn't want to get off. Oh, wow.
But, no, because I just love it up there. Like, even at open mics, after 2 songs, I'm like, do I really have to get off? Can I do another one?
They have to get the
But
hook.
everybody gets a chance. But, yeah, I just love the energy that I get being up there, so.
So you draw from that. You get the energy from the crowd.
Yeah, especially when the crowd is really enjoying it. It makes you feel more confident, and it makes you feel like you're doing it well. So, but either way, I'm going to do my best on stage, because I have performed places where you're in a venue and they're allowed to talk a lot, and you have to sing, and it's like you can get like, why aren't they paying attention? But then you realize you're entertaining while they're having their meal. So I can do all my talking and stuff, but I just have to know that they're not ignoring me. They're just enjoying their meal. But sometimes it feels weird because it's like, oh, look at me, you know?
It's a different dynamic for sure, yeah.
But yeah, so I've done it all. So, but it's also, but at the end, it's amazing that they all clap. And then it's like, okay, good, they were listening. So.
Yeah, you were definitely in their ear. It's just that they, you know, it's low enough where they can have a conversation. Yeah. Well, you know, that's tough for some people. I know, like Johnny Mathis, when he was performing nightclubs back in the 50s and 60s or whatever it was, they would have a policy where you couldn't even serve drinks because he didn't want clinking of glasses while he was performing.
That would bug him, probably.
Yeah, that would drive him. He wouldn't do it. He would walk off. Like, there's no way he could, like, do a dinner hour, you know, with all the eating and conversation and, you know, without every iota of focus on him. You know, that wouldn't work. So
wow.
And I get it, but at the same time,
I guess everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody has their not like insecurities, but like I would prefer this, but sometimes you just have to do it no matter what. But yeah, well, I get it.
Well, nowadays, I mean, I don't understand. It's like everybody's a zombie. Like everyone is just like so, like attached. Not only attached to their devices, but it's just like part of their face. It just seems like. Can you look up a second and see what's going on? There's real life happening.
Oh, like at the concerts, you mean?
At the concerts, crossing the street. while they're ordering food, while they're eating their food, while they're with somebody on a date. I mean, it's just like,
On a date, it's funny if the girl is texting the guy instead of talking.
You know what?
I'm sure they do it.
I'm sure. But
yeah, but you know what? The phone is like our thing now, and it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I use my phone more for my business, but like really, you can go crazy like if you're addicted and then you stop using your phone. Like you'll go like, you have to learn to like push it away sometimes and just breathe go outside, because like not everything's on the internet, like there's still a life to live, but everybody's on their phone. But at concerts, funny story, I went to a Billy Idol concert and my mom wanted me to take pictures. I was so into Billy Idol that I forgot to take pictures, so my mom had to do it for me because I couldn't stop watching the concert.
But that's good. I mean, that's how...
I know it's good, but at the same time, she got good pictures, but I just couldn't hold my phone and pay attention to my phone. I wanted to watch the act and learn from him and see the stage performance. At shows, it's hard for me to take a picture because I'm focusing on the camera, then on the music and the show. But yes, a lot of people are on their phones, but
you know what?
Maybe they're able to do it.
Well, you're old school in that respect, and honestly, I wish more people were like you. I mean, I started touring in 1986 when nobody had a cell phone, or
yeah, definitely.
So everybody was into it.
This whole camera thing is new on the phone. Before, people had to bring in their cameras and sneak it in because you weren't supposed to take pictures. Now they can't stop you from taking your phone in. So, yeah.
This is the Ray Powers Hour. I'm on the line right now with Sabrina Fallah, calling us from Ontario, Ottawa to be exact. And speaking of England, or things or people from England, like Billy Idol, your first album, I went back, or your first EP, I should say, your self-titled EP, you recorded that in England. How did that come about?
I recorded it in England with Stuart Epps, Elton John's producer. Wow. How that came about? Well...
And Stuart Epps at that. How did that come about? Yeah, that's a story in itself.
Yeah, so I'm going to explain that. So I was in college, I think I went to college around 2010. I think that's the year. I can't remember because I'm getting older. So
you're getting older. 2010. I mean...
That's a long time ago. Anyway, so what happened was I was in my producer's class. And in that producer's class, you get to speak to different producers in the industry once a week on the phone, or they would come in the classroom to speak to you, or they would Skype you. So with Stuart, we were Skyping on the laptop. I didn't know the laptop was facing me since I was in the corner of the class.
Oh, boy.
So... when Stuart was asking the class, questions, I guess, to get the class going, who plays an instrument, who writes a song, who sings, who wants to pursue, he just wants to see how many people are wanting to do this for, real, really go into the business, So I raised my hand for every question that he asked because I'm serious, right? So what happened was, out of the blue, and I'm this shy girl wearing a hood, and in college I was very, very shy, so I always wore a hood to hide myself, but not meaning to. But anyway, he saw me and said, "Who is that girl wearing a hat or glasses?" And I wasn't wearing glasses, it was just my bangs were covering my eyes. and then I was telling my teacher, I think he's talking about me. And then he's like, "Stuart, which girl?" "The one there in the front." I'm like, "How can he see me?" So then he started asking me questions first he said, "I noticed that you were raising your hand on all the questions." And I was wondering how you think about songwriting and playing an instrument, all that. So we went into all that. But then at the end, he was interested in our conversation. He told my teacher to give me his email 2 years later, I went to England and I worked with him. It took a while because I had to send him stuff, talk to him, negotiate, get to know him, see how to do it, like how to go there, and it's expensive, right? So we had to talk and decide. But I had songs, but it took time to get everything ready. But it was so good because the minute I spoke to him, he knew exactly what I wanted. Old school Green Day sound. So old school rock kind of sound.
Sure.
So it came out the way I wanted it, and we did the record live off the floor. So I sang it with the band. So the way I sound on the record is the way I would sound live, pretty much.
Yeah,
so.
You really do capture the essence that way.
He said he hates copying and pasting. Like sometimes in the studio the singer sings a chorus and then they just copy it. He said that's not going to show the true side of you. You need to sing it the whole thing through. It doesn't matter how many times you do it. I will choose the best part to put in, but I want you to sing it straight through so it sounds like you're singing it full, not like doing it line by line and stuff. So I kind of enjoyed that because I got better and better, and then I got into the song more that way than doing it bit by bit, or do this part, do that part.
Well, singers that do that, I mean, where they do it one time and cut and paste it, that's usually after hours of frustration of we just cannot get this part, or it's a singer who didn't study, didn't prepare, or simply can't get the part. So or that's how the producer works. Well, that's a lazy producer in my eyes. I mean,
I don't know, but every producer I've worked with have always told me you sing it from top to bottom, and if you mess up, you sing it from top to bottom.
Exactly.
Because they want everything to flow perfectly.
Of course.
And then if one word is off for some reason, he can take it from the other one and put it there, but it's still flowing from top to bottom.
Right, it's not a complete cut and paste
also
job.
I can memorize the song too that way. I'm not doing it part by part.
Exactly. You know how many songs I've done that way? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have brought in a new song, like the ones in Nashville. I brought the songs that I wrote to the studio, and I memorized it in the studio because I had to sing it over and over and over. That's how I memorized it, pretty much. So sometimes that's how you memorize a song. You just have to sing it over and over and over till it sticks.
Well, and bands nowadays, a lot of times when they make a record, they have to go into rehearsals just to learn the song the first time, because a lot of times they weren't in the same room together at any point.
Exactly, because if they're traveling, yeah.
Or if the producer's just doing, instrument one at a time and nobody laid down any foundation tracks, then, they've never seen each other in the studio and they've never played it from top to bottom. So they're doing it live for the first time, seeing which songs they can actually pull off live, if any.
Maybe that is when the studio has the session players and the actual band is supposed to learn it for the stage, because sometimes they have the session players on the record, but I don't know, maybe. That's what I hear that some bands, even the good ones, some of them do not record in the studio. They're only meant to be for live playing.
Absolutely.
So that can be, but because they're live players, they can learn songs pretty fast. Well, they're just as good, but they prefer to be on the stage than be in the studio. Well, it's just their choice.
I come from an era where, you did both and you did it with proficiency. And if not, if you had to be bounced from the studio, it was a thing of shame. You didn't brag about it. You didn't talk about it. It was something that you kind of hope nobody found out. If you couldn't play to a click track, or, you had some other deficiency.
Oh, I hate the click track.
I do too, but it's a necessity.
Everybody hates it, but you need it.
Right.
You need it when you're in the studio. You need it. I'm sure drummers hate it too.
Oh, the drummers get bent out of shape. They think it's a knock to their ego. And a lot of times it's just, they feel it's going to expose them. And it's like, look, it's not for you. Don't flatter yourself.
It's not like you're not good. It's everybody else is using it too.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not, but yeah.
Well, they feel it's going to stifle their creativity. It's going to stifle
their rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to stifle their spontaneity. They're going to play too too tentative, but
Yeah, but it's interesting. The drummer I had in England, he was actually in a metal band, so I was interested to hear what sound he was going to give me, and he didn't give me a metal sound. He gave me a rock sound, but he had to play to a click track, and
Excellent.
I couldn't believe how well he did it. Like, he didn't care about the click track. He just did his own thing and didn't care about it being in his ear. So I guess he was experienced enough to not let it affect him to do what he wanted to do, because he was so smooth, and it didn't take him long to do my songs.
No, the seasoned pros are gonna they've done it, and they can work with it. And
Yeah.
a lot of times the producer will say, if you can't work with a click, I'm not going to use you. I can't use you. So
Of course, because everybody has to use it.
it's an industry standard. And speaking of industry standards, now your next album, or your next EP rather, Kiss is a Killer, that was done in Nashville, where session players are in the same room, and those tracks are cut live for the most part, and that's a norm.
Yeah, they were. What happened was I had like 3 hours, because there were so many bands coming in that day. So I had 3 hours. I had to do it. And I didn't record my vocals that day. I was singing with the band, so they did the tracks for me. But it was amazing. Like, even if I messed up, because I was learning the songs, right? They kept on going because they could read the notes and the tab. I guess
tablature,
tablature, so they could follow that. So I couldn't believe how amazing they were. Like,
oh yeah,
I was standing there and I'm listening to this band, and I'm like, I was freaking out. Like, if only they were my band, like they were so good. Like, they just read a piece of paper and they knew the timing and the notes and the rhythm, exactly where to stop and go. Sure. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, most of them read sheet music. And if not, then definitely tablature for sure.
Yeah, but they were going by numbers, actually.
By bars?
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's
like for chords, yeah, right. Like
I guess it's a new thing in Nashville. All they put is numbers. They tried to explain it to me. I didn't understand it, but they were reading numbers for the chords. But it was good. It worked out. I was amazed, but just singing with them, playing live together, just for that couple hours, amazing feeling.
What it comes down to, the number system is like, if your song goes C, F to G, it's 1, 4, 5. It's just, the root note is the 1, and then from there, it's just how far that chord is from the 1. So that's
exactly what they told me. Yeah. But I learned things visually, so they would have to show me on the guitar or on the piano, or else I get confused.
No, it's understandable. I mean, I learned a certain way, and I didn't learn. I was classically trained on piano for 3 years, so that's where I got my theory, and that's how I learned to read. But later on, I learned that whole numeric system, and it's more of a, it's big in jazz, it's big in the blues. And this producer that you're speaking of, this is Kent Wells, who obviously is a Nashville name. It's
yes, with Dolly Parton, definitely.
Produced Dolly Parton, produced a lot of high-profile people in and out of Nashville.
He's also in Dolly Parton's band.
That's right. I've seen him with the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting because I was praying every day that Dolly walks into the studio because her pictures are all around.
You never know. It's Nashville.
On the wall, but you know what? She never did. But I'm sure I know I walked where she walked, and I was singing on the same mic, and I was in the same room where she was standing, because I was told, you're standing right where Dolly Parton used to sit. I'm like, what? This is so cool.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And now your title cut to this EP, Kiss is a Killer, it was last week's fresh cut on this show. Got a lot of great feedback. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to spin it again as this week's feature cut.
Spin it as long as you like.
I didn't think you'd have a problem with it.
No, please. Push it. Please.
Let's push it.
If your listeners are enjoying it, keep playing it,
Well, you broke my arm. This is Sabrina Fallah with the title cut to her current release, Kiss is a Killer, right here in the Ray Powers Hour on the New Visions Radio Network.
heart tattoos. I just had to try your lips. That's where all the danger lives. Sugar can be poisoning. Your kiss is a killer. Your kiss is a killer. Steal my breath, be my death. Start that time bomb in my chest. Your kiss is a killer. Your kiss is a killer. I'm Tokyo, you're Godzilla. Your kiss is a killer. I'm taking over now, just in case you haven't guessed it. So snap a picture of us, send it off to all your exes. Nothing is as good as this. I feel the fire when you lean in. Go up, burn me up again. Your kiss is a killer. Your kiss is a killer. Steal my breath, be my death. Start that time bomb in my chest. Your kiss is a killer. Your kiss is a killer. I'm Tokyo, you're Godzilla. Your kiss is a killer. 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 Steal my breath, be my death. Start that time bomb in my chest. Your kiss is a killer. Your kiss is a killer. I'm Tokyo, you're Godzilla. Your kiss is a killer. Kiss is a killer. Kiss is a killer.
New Visions Radio, this is the Ray Powers Hour. That was Sabrina Fallah with the title cut to her current EP, Kiss is a Killer. Sabrina's on the line with us. We're hanging out. She's in Ottawa. I'm here right outside of New York City. So now you mentioned Green Day and Billy Idol as direct influences,
And Bon Jovi.
and Bon Jovi, yes. That's a pretty cool triad. I mean, I could tie the three of them together and I could basically bring them to Sabrina Fallah. Green Day, you know, certainly energetic, the angry early stuff, very punk-based. Derivative of the early stuff, Billy Idol, Generation X. So there's definitely, I think, you know, Billy and the guys would definitely, Billy Joe, I mean, would definitely, you know, point to Generation X and say, yeah, this is, of course, where we got our start in, you know, the Ramones and all the classic punk.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, Bon Jovi, you know, good for radio sensibility and energetic show. But those are definitely, you know, three solid, you know, points of reference to draw an influence for sure.
Yeah.
And,
do you hear them in my music?
You know what? I hear elements of Bon Jovi. I hear elements of a Desmond Child sensibility as far as, you know, I hear the hooks and I hear the energy of the other two.
Right. Right.
You know? So yeah, I mean, and it's inevitable.
Yeah, and yet again, I'm not trying to be them.
Of course
I'm
not.
trying to have the feel and the inspiration of their music and influence, you know? I'm not trying to be another Green Day or Bon Jovi.
Oh, no.
But I just love their music so much. I'm like, I want that sound. I want that feel, that edge. That's what I'm trying to put in my music.
No, we all derive from different places. And I mean, for me, it was Kiss and the Ramones and King's X and Billy Squier and Def Leppard and, you know, that in Queen. And that
Freddie
era.
Mercury. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that was, for me,
I love him.
I saw Queen when I was 10 years old at Madison Square Garden. And
Oh, why? I want to see Queen too.
that's what I get that from everybody. It's like, I'm so jealous. And at the time, I knew it was cool, but I didn't realize just how cool. But
let's just say you're very lucky that you got to see him.
certainly, I was born at the right time, and yeah, it was special. Even then, I knew, because I had some musical training, and I was like, wow, these guys are good. And it sets the
he
bar.
was very good.
It sets the bar unfairly high for everybody else. I mean, I watched that Live Aid 23-minute. I call it a clinic. I call it Rock 101. Like, I feel bad for anybody who has to follow this. They should just close the show. Can you imagine having to follow Queen? Forget it. And I think the only saving grace was there was the Led Zeppelin reunion that followed that. And it's like, okay, this is the only thing that could possibly follow Queen. So somebody knew what they were doing when they booked that show.
Definitely.
But, so Sabrina, before we go, we do have to wrap this. I only have an hour, unfortunately, or else we could talk longer.
Right.
Now, I have a feeling you like the studio and you love the process.
Yes.
It sounded like you had a great experience more than once, and you had some great people to work with. You also draw from the live crowd. If you had to choose one, studio or live, what would you say?
Ooh, good. I like the question. Okay. Well, it's very hard to choose, because when you're in the studio, you can be creative and make some new music. But it is a lot of work, and it can get extremely stressful. And if you're not doing well that day, you just want to walk out sometimes. So if I had to choose, I would probably choose live on stage, because even if I mess up on stage, I just continue. I'm still singing. I'm still having fun, and that doesn't stress me because I'm performing for people. And I love being on stage, no matter what happens, sound failure, mic goes off, or my string breaks on my guitar. It doesn't matter. I'm still performing. I'm still going, and nobody will notice, because I'm not going to make it noticeable and say, oops, my string broke.
Exactly. I had a belt break on stage, and I thought I was pretty coy about it. A few people in the front noticed it, but for the most part, I played it off. I, scurried back, and I told the guitar player, take a solo. I gotta fix this. And I managed.
That's funny.
But, afterwards, the front row, especially the ones who come see me all the time, said, I saw what happened there.
Yeah.
But, it's part of the live experience. If I had to choose, I'd also pick live. And I love the studio, but I'm a perfectionist, and the little things drive me crazy. So I'm with you on the live without a rope.
But I do love being in the studio. But if I had to choose being in the studio or perform, I would love to be performing. But if I have a new project I have to work on, of course I'm going to be in the studio. But for your question, I would choose live performance.
Ultimately, so would I. Okay, this is something I ask everybody. You can pick one artist to work with, living or dead. Who would it be?
Green Day.
Green Day. Good choice. Green Day.
I always say Green Day.
Well, that's good.
Because they got me into rock. Like, their American Idiot album is the one that struck me, and I'm like, that's it. That's the rock. That's the sound. That's what I want. And since then, like, I like other bands, but Green Day is still the one I'm following, and I don't know where I would be if Green Day wasn't in the picture. Like, I have no clue how my life would be if it was another band in front of me. I don't think anybody could replace them, honestly.
Well,
they're very close to my heart. I defend them when people are rude about them.
They need the fans. They need more fans like you.
I'm not like addicted, crazy fan, but I'm like, I will definitely protect them and defend them, because people shouldn't say certain things about them, but they worked hard to get where they are, and I'm glad they're there because I needed them to help me for my career. So
a little crazy is good, especially in the world of fandom.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's something that has been a hotbed on Facebook, believe it or not. It's been a big discussion with some of the people in Nashville. Pre-recorded tracks on stage. What's your stance on that? like supplemental tracks. Are you okay with an act? You go to see a concert. You see Green Day, and they have to replicate Wake Me When September Ends, and they can't get a 40-piece orchestra. Are you cool with them piping in some pre-recorded keyboards, strings, things like that?
If they're still playing live with it, yes.
Well, that's exactly what I said. As long as everybody on stage is playing, all the mics are hot and live, I'm okay with that. Exactly. If you're lip syncing and you're charging for a concert, then no.
No. But
I agree.
I don't think Green Day would even do that. They would go and get the orchestra.
Well, they have the budget for it. That's probably a bad example, but you know.
But that's my answer. Definitely.
Well, that was exactly what I had said. I'm like, somebody like Def Leppard, you can't replicate 130 tracks on stage. I don't think people realize how many tracks go into making a record. They just visualize 5 people playing and then boom. And we'll mix it, maybe overdub once.
Yeah, if they go back into the studio and see all the tracks that goes into like every bar, it's amazing.
It is.
Like some bands spend so long in the studio to make their tracks sound so good. They put so much in the background. I don't do that, but like it's a lot of work, and I don't know how these engineers can cut and paste and move and swap and fade in, fade out. I don't know how they do that stuff, but it's amazing. I love to watch them at work, doing it, just to see how they're doing it. But that's not me, though. I'm not the computer engineer person, but it's cool.
Well, especially in the older days, Sabrina, you used to cut your recording budget in half, and half the budget was to just do the basic tracking, and the second half was to mix, because it would take that long, and you would need, trial and error. No, it's not quite ready yet, and believe me, it was a bear, and you would have to usually go to a different mix studio, different facility, fresh ears, guys who are experts on just mixes.
Exactly.
So it's a whole different ball game, and that's what I do. I send mine out. I can produce my own records, but I won't mix them. I want somebody with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it seems like a foregone thing. I mean, everybody knows where to get your music. They just go to Sabrina Fallah, they go to Google, and boom, everything pops up. But you know what? We'll be complete. We'll be thorough. Tell them where to get Kiss is a Killer, as well as your self-titled record.
You can get my new EP and my other releases on iTunes. Just put Sabrina Fallah, and also my website is sabrinafallah.com, and all my social medias are on the top, and you can follow me there.
Sounds like a plan. I bet you some of them are there already. Sabrina,
I hope.
Thank you so much. Come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Next time you're in America, next time you're passing through, stop on by.
I will let you know when I'm in New York.
Yeah, let's do this face to face.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, you have yourself a great night.
You too.
All right.
All right, thanks.
The Ray Powers Hour. New Visions Radio.